This Hangout on Air is live, Peter. Just so you know.
Thank you, sir.
In case you were about to string swear words together. I don't know.
I promise I won't. I always worry about that, though.
I swear personally. People think I don't because I choose to honor the fact that lots of people are offended by it, and I don't wish to offend them, so I don't swear on the show because I don't feel any need to. But if it slips out, it's not the end of the world.
Good to know.
I'm not encouraging.
Well, I haven't yet, but I've been terrified of it.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Ready?
And in through the nose, and out through the mouth. And remember, to find your inner peace, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. And now, your moment of Zen.
This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, February 23rd, 2015. How are you? It's Monday. We're going to give you some tech news to brighten your day. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me from Reckoner in Australia, Mr. Peter Wells. Good morning in Tuesday. How are you?
I'm very well, Tom Merritt. How are you, sir?
I am doing very well. Thank you for asking. You're already into your week, because of the international dateline. But it's still a little early in the morning, so I appreciate you joining us, man. As always
a pleasure. Yeah.
We have some Superfish news. If you're like, I heard about Superfish last week. Well, Superfish isn't the only software that has the problem. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But first, let's get to the headlines. Recode reports Google is buying some of the tech intellectual property behind mobile payment system SoftCard. You may have heard it under its former name, ISIS. The system was created by AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile USA. Google also linked a distribution deal for Google Wallet with those three U.S. carriers. So all three carriers will pre-install Google Wallet on their Android phones starting later this year. Now, this doesn't mean that Google bought SoftCard. You'll see it reported that way in headlines. They only bought the intellectual property and then did the distribution deal. All the employees of SoftCard and the name SoftCard are staying, well, I actually shouldn't say that about the name, but the employees and everything are staying with the carriers, and it'll be interesting to see if they keep that division going on, or with this wallet deal, they decide to just say, okay, let them have the tech for SoftCard, we'll put pre-install wallet and call it even.
Yeah, it seems like something that Google definitely needs to do. I mean, it's so weird here because I hate to be that guest, that international guest who says, well, I've been using NFC for years, but, I have. So it's weird hearing the Apple Pay stories come out of America as like this amazing new thing. But clearly Apple Pay has, grabbed the headlines and grabbed the momentum. So I think it's really smart of Google to start pushing Wallet. Have you seen, Wallet? Google Wallet stickers, or I don't know, Wallet accepted here posters starting to pop up around your area, Tom?
Oh yeah, no, for years. Back when I lived up in San Rafael, I used my Nexus 7 to pay for coffee at the Pete's Coffee Shop. The problem here was that these three carriers wanted to push their own payment system, and so they were blocking Google Wallet from working on their phones. So it could just never quite get going. It was accepted all over the place. In fact, the Apple Pay people benefited from that because a lot of stores already had NFC readers once Apple Pay launched, and even if they weren't officially part of Apple Pay, they'd work. So I think what happened is Apple Pay showed like, hey, if you don't get in people's way and you're accepted everywhere, you can get a lot of uptake. And the carriers and Google finally, or at least the carriers finally came to their senses about that and decided to partner up with Google Wallet. So that it'll be interesting if we get as ubiquitous now as other areas of the world.
Indeed. Today, Google started accepting requests to use Inbox for Work, according to TechCrunch. Google Inbox has been available since late last year by invite, but didn't integrate with Google Apps for Work. Google's Director of Project Management, Alex Gawley, said that Inbox for Work experience will be indistinguishable from the consumer version. Google Apps for Work system admins can request an invite by emailing inboxforwork@google.com. Invites should start arriving late next month.
I like Inbox fine, but I'm not using it mostly because I don't know. I don't manage my mail on mobile as often. I prefer to be in the desktop for lots of reasons, mostly screen space and writing and being able to access all the things I might need to put into an email at the same time rather than double tapping to flip through screens and all of that. But I guess if you are into Inbox, which I realize a lot of people are excited about it, not being able to use it on your apps on the domain has been frustrating. So this is great news.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because whenever I've asked geekier people about Google Inbox, I get that same response that not a lot of the geeks I know use Inbox, because I think that we've all spent years now building up our filters and building up all of these rules in Google that we're fine with Google. We're fine with our Inbox. We don't need that much management. But yeah, I think this is a really smart move to, first of all, the way it kind of works here is the admins of your organization will create some of those smart labels for the end user. So it really does seem like they're empowering the geeks to empower their workers to sort their email. So yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's interesting that you bear that out, because to me, I look at this and go, yeah, but I can't Control-T, F5 do a search, then Alt-Tab to another app, Control-C, and then back to my email inbox, Control-V, all of that information, and on my way. It takes a lot longer on mobile, doesn't it? I mean,
absolutely.
Ars Technica reports to USS, like they're ships. Ars Technica reports to US FCC commissioners Ajit Pai and Michael O'Reilly have requested the commission delay its vote on open internet rules. Those are the net neutrality rules. They want to delay it for 30 days and make the entire proposal available for public review. Now, the FCC usually does not release final drafts of any of the rules it does, ever. They do that to reduce lobbying, and because they take an open comment period beforehand. This is supposed to be the time for the commissioners to focus on taking those comments and putting them in place without exterior influence. However, exceptions have been made in the past, such as in the case of a change of rules on media ownership in 2003 under FCC Chairman Michael Powell. The FCC is scheduled to vote on the new rules Thursday. It does not look like Chairman Wheeler is going to change the date, and if he doesn't, DTNS is going to put together a special roundtable to discuss those rules on Friday's show.
I look forward to that. Paul Thurrott on his still fresh and new Thurrott.com reports Microsoft is delivering the first major update to the Microsoft Band Fitness Wearable and Microsoft Health online service. The update includes new health and fitness insights, support for cycling, and a web app that allows you to view your data in a more detailed dashboard on any web browser. Still no word on whether more Microsoft bands will be available for those who didn't get in on the initial measured launch. I didn't get one, but they look very, very cool. I mean, they kind of look like the Fitbit Charge, which, again, seems to have grabbed all the headlines. But yeah, it looks like a really, really solid bit of kit.
These sort of passed out of my mind, but I remember being excited about them. I just didn't want to work that hard to get one at the time. So I'm glad they made this update, because it kind of puts it back to my mind that this exists, and I'm going to keep my eye on it. I mean, they're doing a lot of integration with running already. They added cycling this time, but they already had some running integration. And they say, and here's the interesting thing in this brand new Microsoft that we're seeing, right now, they work with iOS and Android, but really you have to use the Microsoft Health online service to track all this data. They're like, we don't want that to continue to be the case. We want the Microsoft Health online service to eventually work with any fitness tracker that you're using, and we want the Microsoft Fitness Band to work with any fitness tracking service that you want to use. So they're not gonna keep them together. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, and I kind of wish that Fitbit would take a leaf out of this book, because I love Fitbit and I love the community, but I'm kind of feeling that Fitbit's about to be taken over by, I now use Google Health on my Moto 360, and I would much rather use Fitbit because I like the community it has behind it. But I feel that, yeah, Fitbit kind of needs to understand that it has to be a software as well as hardware company if it's going to survive, but that's a whole nother story.
9to5Mac found an image on Pebble's servers of a smartwatch with a color e-ink display, a larger bezel, and smaller buttons. Looks like Pebble might be having an announcement later this week. Pebble quickly removed the image from the servers, by the way. 9to5 adds, the image bears out what their sources have been saying about the latest Pebble, which also includes a revamped OS, a battery life that compares to the first-gen Pebble, and no touchscreen. No touchscreen?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the Pebble way, to be the simplest. And I think that this is, I like that they've, carved out that niche, and the word is niche, by the way. That they've carved out that niche market of the very simple smartwatch. Are you tempted at all?
No. I'm more tempted by the fitness band for Microsoft because I actually do run, and I would like possibly to track that if it made sense. But the watch just seems like more than I need. And I used to wear a watch. I've worn a watch on and off, so it's not an anti-watch thing. I don't know that I need to spend extra money on something that I need to recharge. Just for me, I don't see the value of getting those notifications. I try to limit notifications to almost zero anyway. So buying a device to give me faster access to it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, my wife pretty much is the only person who's allowed notification access on any of my devices these days. So I totally understand that. But yeah, I still like my Moto 360 for some reason. It's just a pretty looking thing. Anyway, let's move on. After reports that the NSA and GCHQ had stolen its SIM keys, Gemalto said it would look into the matter. CNET reports Gemalto's first statement says initial conclusions already indicate that the Gemalto SIM products are secure. Gemalto plans to release the full results of this investigation this Wednesday, February 25th, at a press conference in Paris at 10:30 a.m.
Yeah, I'm a little puzzled. I'm very curious what they end up saying on Wednesday. Indicate that Gemalto SIM products are secure. Well, no one said that the SIM products were insecure. They said that the GCHQ had stolen your keys. That's like saying, well, my car is very secure. Too bad somebody stole its keys and could get in and steal it. It doesn't make your car insecure. It means somebody else has the keys. So this feels like a carefully crafted statement meant to reassure stockholders.
Yeah, I've got one friend who works in a telecommunications company, and he has said to me that he really doesn't know anything because all the meetings have happened behind closed doors so far, but they seem to be panicked is the phrase he would say to describe those meetings. So,
well, I have a feeling they're going to have to send out new SIM cards to everyone, which is not a cheap thing to do.
No, I've got about 20 in my room right now, just because of the amount of devices I tend to go through.
Yeah, and maybe all they're saying here is we don't see anyone taking advantage of a security hole, right? Which is different than saying no one has your keys.
Yeah.
Time now for some news from you. This comes from our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com, as do lots of stories. Our top story today, our main discussion story, all came out of there as well. But we always highlight a few of them here just to let you know what's going on. If you haven't gone over there, go subscribe, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Abituela con Dulce submitted the PC World article that a class action lawsuit has been filed against Lenovo in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of California. Plaintiff Jessica Bennett, on behalf of the class, complained her laptop was damaged, her privacy invaded, her computer performance degraded because of memory use, and her bandwidth resources compromised. It was using up her bandwidth, It's all done by Superfish. Lenovo issued a fix to remove Superfish this past weekend and its compromised certificate from all the browsers on any affected Lenovo computers. Meanwhile, the Commodia software, which is the software used by Superfish to play with the certificates, has been discovered in several other programs. And in fact, that's what Peter and I are going to talk about in a few minutes.
Yeah, this story is just getting bigger. And scarier. MacBytes wants to let us know about another announcement from last week's annual meeting of the American Association for Advancement of Science in San Jose. The BBC reports on a project to scan the Amazon rainforest in Brazil using a drone equipped with LiDAR, or laser illuminated data and ranging, to peer through the thick forest canopy. The project hopes to locate geoglyphs, or large geometric patterns in the ground. More than 450 geoglyphs have been found in places where the forest has been cut down. The project could help answer questions about the size and the complexity of the Amazonian civilization prior to European contact. This is amazing.
Yeah, we often get the criticism. It's sort of the kind of criticism that any news program gets, like, why do you only talk about the bad news? We often get the criticism, why aren't you talking about unusual uses of things? And so, yeah, I wanted to throw this in here. It was high on the subreddit anyway, because this is a use of drones that's not spying on people. It's not commercial real estate. It's trying to figure out, like, how did people actually live in the Amazon rainforest in the past? And I'm sort of an amateur fan of archaeology and anthropology anyway, so this is fascinating.
Excellent story.
Captain Kipper sent us the Verge report that Apple is spending 1.7 billion euros to build 2 new European data centers that run on 100% renewable energy. The data centers will be built in Athenry in Western Ireland and Viborg in central Denmark and are expected to be operational by 2017. This is the trend now for large multinational companies to move their data centers outside of the United States, where, whether it's true or not, people have the perception that your data could be spied upon by the U.S. government.
Yeah, I mean, there's many wins in this article for Apple here. I mean, they also, by establishing real physical presence in Ireland, then they can continue to use their Irish tax avoidance, or, you know, for lack of a better word. So yeah, there's a bunch of different things here. Plus, also obviously more data centers around the world, more redundancy and faster connection for people around there. So yeah, it's really fascinating. It is great that it's totally renewable energy behind this. So good on Tim Cook for that one.
And it could conceivably actually improve performance for things like Siri and such if you're in Europe, because you'll be closer to these data centers. And like you said, it certainly allows Apple to wave the flag of, hey, all that repatriated cash we were hiding in Ireland, we spent it in Ireland on jobs.
Yeah. There's at least 3 security guards at that data center. Yeah.
And let's look at the headline. All right, let's talk a little bit more about Superfish. So we mentioned about the class action lawsuit. This is a headache for Lenovo, but it's become a headache for more than just Lenovo. It's, as I mentioned in the headlines, a company named Comodia that creates HTTPS decryption and interception software that is, according to Comodia's website, used by hundreds of clients, including Superfish. They say that it's got a simple to-control interface. You can intercept website traffic and network applications from any programming language. They have one kit called SSL Hijacker, lovely name, and they don't do it very well. Here's the problem. I want to be clear. A lot of your antivirus and security software does a similar thing of creating a certificate that passes secure traffic through it, but it is secure, and you've decided to trust the security software with checking your security, so you shouldn't have a problem with that. Otherwise, you shouldn't be running it. But this Comodia software is not secure. First of all, it's all the certificates, although they are encrypted, are protected by the password Comodia. So even though they encrypt the private key with a 1024-bit RSA key, an SHA-1 algorithm, you use the password Comodia on all of them, it doesn't matter what encryption you have. It just needs somebody to guess that that's the password, which has happened already, and you're off to the races. It's used in a lot of software. Security researchers are out there right now finding dozens of examples of this. Here are a few of them. Keep My Family Secure, a parental control software from Custodio, Curipira Web Filter, Staff Cop versions 5.6 and 5.8, Easy Hide IP Classic. One of the big ones is a program from Lavasoft, not actually the main Adaware software, but Lavasoft Adaware Web Companion, which they say they're reissuing without the Comodio software in it. That's according to Mark Rogers. Also, the Wacolian is finding even more examples online. Plus, Wacolian says that there is evidence there's rootkit tech to hide Comodia so that it can't be detected. There is an example that has been found called PrivDog from certificate authority Comodo, which makes security products. If you get PrivDog bundled in with other Comodos, it doesn't act this way, but apparently the standalone version will accept any certificate from anybody, no matter how it's signed. All of the Comodia software installs fake root certificates and then allows access with the password Comodia. So if you can get the private key from one of them, it's used on all of them rather than being used individually for each installation. And the password is easy to guess. It also accepts MD4 and MD5 ciphers, which are easily hacked. So you can hack a certificate and fool it that way. Filippo Valsorda found out that you can actually put any domain you want in the alternate name field of a certificate, and Komodia will accept it. Even if it fails on the primary, it's just not doing a good job of validating these certificates. So to sum all this up, installing root certificates isn't the problem. You'll probably think that's a bad thing for any software to do. Not necessarily. It's installing the same key to the encryption of these certificates with the same password on every installation that makes them extremely vulnerable. And if you're worried about this sort of thing, you should go to filippo.io. That's filippo.io/badfish and check to see if any of the software that you've installed that might be liable to have this does have it. Peter, what do you make of all this?
Well, after that summary, I do want to kind of set fire to my router. But yeah, I mean, I would say to listeners to go out there and go back to Filippo's website, just because there has been so many new discoveries of the back end code here, and so he's updated his site. So if you've already checked your computer, just check it again to be safe. But yeah, it really is incredible that, I mean, we tell users all the time not to use the same password everywhere, not to have this single point of failure, and here is software that is doing that on such a massive scale. And this whole thing broke. I'm a little bit behind on this news, but this whole thing broke while I was on holiday last week, and I'm just going to say I was so impressed by the name Superfish. Because I honestly thought that was something like Heartbleed that someone had come up with to scare people. Like, this is super phishing on a large scale. Like, make sure you're protected from this. But no, this was actually the registered trademark of this company. So, I mean, hats off to the marketing team there. I thought that was amazing. But yeah, look, in terms of the court case here, Jessica Bennett, I don't think she's going to become super rich off this lawsuit. But I am happy that this story just continues, that this story is going to be talked about. Clearly, once a lawsuit is in place, the story is not going to go away for a while. And, you know, I think everyone in your audience, has probably already checked their computers to make sure that they're okay, and probably done that, you know, that extra step of seeing a friend's machine as well. But you know, if this story just stays in the news enough that, say, your average person who might hear the story on NPR on their drive home hears about it enough times to think, I should probably go Google that and just make sure that I'm okay. I think that's the positive of this story just continuing to roll along. Because, oh, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, I don't work in security. The guys who do that at my work, and unfortunately most of them are guys, they're in a whole different team. But I'm fascinated because we do have about 5,000 people who work in our organization. I'm fascinated to always watch how these security breaches kind of go through our network. And, you know, we've got incredibly smart users, and they still fall for phishing attacks all the time. They still fall for crypto locking, a whole bunch of stuff. Even when the story is so big that it hits mainstream. Like, I except when, you know, they ignore our emails because we email them quite a bit. But, you know, once that story is big enough that it's on the mainstream media every other day, that's where it fascinates me that people still kind of get hooked. And yeah, I feel that this is just such a massive vulnerability that's out there that I want this story to be talked about on mainstream press all the time.
I think the insidious part about this is it plays into what you're talking about there, which is this vulnerability is worst because it is existing in free versions of security software, right? Now, it's not the kind of security software that the most sophisticated, security-minded computer user is going to install. They're going to run their own thing. They're going to have their own best practices, and they're going to be very selective about the tools they use. But if you're someone who thinks like, hey, now, I'm not going to be like the schmucks who always get phished. I'm going to install a privacy filter. I'm going to get this PrivDog thing, and it's free. Or I am going to, you know, do this keep my family secure because I want to keep my family secure. These are the ones that are even if you are a sophisticated user, you wouldn't notice that it was doing this necessarily. That's why it wasn't noticed until now when people started looking around to say, hey, if Superfish does this, what else does this? And I do think that I have my own theory on this, but why do you think this has become so prevalent in these kinds of software?
I don't know. I mean, I feel that this is the last great way to make money on the internet is advertising. And I guess the fact that the entire reason for this thing to exist is to hijack ads around the internet and serve ads that the company behind it, or Lenovo, or whoever their partners are, want you to see. I mean, first of all, that is just so skeezy. That already just makes me feel really awful about this. But yeah, that seems to be the last great way of making money to a sophisticated network, as you said. Like, you know, you can still get that 0.1% of people clicking on bad links in spam, but that's a very small market out there these days. But yeah, if you had, I mean, I don't want to name specific names, but if you go to, say, some of the more popular software download sites out there, and you know, the ones that collect, you know, important software to download for your PC, you'll find that one or two of those, you know, will hijack your browser in different ways, will install toolbars and things that, unless you're paying attention at every step, you'll find them. And yeah, and I think that that's what's so scary about this. And I'm sure we're just going to see more of these stories come out that this software is actually being used by some of those. Yeah, again, that software that promises it's protecting you. We're going to find that it's not always going to be the case.
My theory plays off of what you're saying, because you pointed out that this is a way to make money on the internet. And I think what happened was security companies, even someone as sophisticated as Komodo, said, you know, what really gets people in the door is free software. But free software is expensive to maintain. So what we're going to do is figure out a very unobtrusive way to support that software. And I feel like the Superfish way of doing this, if it didn't compromise security at the certificate level so badly, isn't a bad way to do it. It says, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to actually create better ads for you. You're going to get ads anyway unless you run ad blocker, right? So if you're not running ad blocker, what we're going to do is swap out those ads with better ads, with ads that are more relevant to you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Now you say, I may say I don't want any ads at all. That's fine. Then get an ad blocker, whatever. But if you're going to be the kind of person who's like, well, ads are on the internet, that's fine. This isn't a bad solution. And so it feels perfect to the company to say, great, we have this piece of software that comes in, does better ads, we get a cut of that, pays for the free software. Free software brings people in the door. Eventually they go to our paid software. Everybody wins. And the security people looking over the software say, oh, okay, so it's doing a certificate insert, just like our security software does, and they don't look any farther than that. Or maybe they're even discouraged from looking any farther than that if they have more questions by the marketing people who say this is such a sweet deal, and they don't go to Komodia and say, hey, Komodia, how are you securing this? You know, what we don't want to know what the password is, but assure us that you have a different password for every installation and that you have a different private key for every installation of this, because that would be really bad if you don't. And so those kind of questions were never asked because they were writing checks and everyone figured, nobody will bother using this as a vector until it started messing up. And I think that's what blew this whole scheme, was when last September suddenly people started noticing on their Lenovos pop-ups. And I'm still curious to find out why that was happening, because that's actually not the way Superfish was supposed to work. But something got into their system and started acting strangely, and that's what caused everyone to notice it.
Two things there. I'd say that the way it was discovered was, and purely guessing here, but the way it was discovered is I bet you someone else out there had realized what was happening and decided that they would jump in between these connections, and that's where the pop-up started happening.
And call attention to it. Yeah, you may be right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, but I think it comes back to what was said on your show last week, which is the reason this went along so long without being discovered is because no one was upfront about this. And if Komodia or Superfish or whoever, was upfront to say, we are going to change the way the ads work on, even if it was just something purely marketing speak, like we're just going to give you a better advertising experience that helps pay for this free software as a little checkbox as you install the software. If they let you know, then it would only take that for nerds much smarter than me to be able to look at that and say, well, hang on, how are they doing that? Let's look at the code, let's see if it's secure. And suddenly you would have this army of people wanting to know how that was working, and this would have been discovered in minutes. That this was a very insecure way that they were handling this. I think this wouldn't have been an issue at all. But because all of these deals were done in secret without the users knowing, that's how this managed to fly under the radar for so long, and that's why it's such a insidious way. Everything about this story, I just really sends shivers down my spine.
Yeah, me too. So I have a pick of the day. Peter has a pick of the day, and we have a viewer pick of the day. And I want to get to those because my pick of the day I just thought of while we were talking. My pick of the day is opensourcewindows.org. Don't go to opensourcewindows.net. Don't go to opensourcewindows.com. It's opensourcewindows.org. This has been around forever. They also do open source Mac as well. And spread the word on this to people who are looking for free software, because where you get in trouble is with these big companies offering you free trial software, etc. A lot of times it's just annoying because it's crapware, or it very publicly delivers ads to you, right? But that's why a lot of these compromised tools are causing problems, is because people wanted free software. OpenSourceWindows.org has a section called Best Privacy Tools. You can actually get to it at bestprivacytools.com, where you can find open source, validated, geek signed off on privacy tools. And they even recommend some podcasts and things if you want to keep up on security. And that's a much better solution if you need something free. Now, Peter, I know you've got a pick today as well.
Yeah, well, I would also just say, and kudos to Microsoft for immediately updating their Microsoft Defender and pulling this stuff out of there as well. So we've been positive about Microsoft for the last couple of months. I think that should continue. Anyway, I was just going to quickly mention Do Camera, which launched last week. I heard you guys talking about it on the show. And the reason I wanted to mention it is it is the perfect app I've actually been looking for just over the last few weeks. So I've used Evernote. I've gone back and forth between Simple Note and Evernote, and I absolutely love Simple Note. And Evernote, sorry Rafe if you're listening, but Evernote just feels so kludgy and heavy, and it just annoys me.
He doesn't work there anymore, so it's okay.
Oh, fantastic. But he's such a fanboy either way. But yeah, Evernote just always really kind of frustrated me by how slow it was, how it tried to do everything. So I've moved recently back to Simple Note again. It's a much faster system for me. And what I found with Do Camera, so this is that new if this then that product, what I can do is just switch off Do Camera so it won't save photos to the camera roll, but it will still save to my cloud service of choice. So now I don't have... I take photos all the time of like serial numbers of computers, of receipts, of port numbers at work. I don't want any of that, popping up in my memories on Flickr or, I just want those photos to live for a couple of minutes till I get back to my desk and look over them. And Do has fit right into that workflow. I think it's fantastic. So if you're looking for a way to kind of roll your own Evernote with Simple Note and Dropbox, here is a great solution.
I just used Do Camera to send a picture of my screen to Slack so that Jenny and Roger could see that picture, although it's totally not useful. But it could be useful in other situations where I'm like, oh, I need to send this to them right away through our Slack channel. Boom, you use that one click. Photos on the way. I love it too. And then finally, our pick comes from Anders, who says, I wanted to chip in with my good friend and former coworker Nick Dunkerley's Hindenburg.com. It's not what you think. It's an audio editor specifically for radio and podcast work. It's called Hindenburg, and I use it almost every day, says Anders. It has filtering and compression and that sort of thing. It can record Skype conversations in separate tracks, has lots of keyboard shortcuts, and can be picked up in a few minutes. Anyway, as mentioned, in full disclosure, I know Nick and the others behind the company. I was in the first alpha tester and have remained in frequent touch with them for feedback, input, and feature requests, so take that into account. But Anders says that he really loves it. So you might want to check it out if you're looking for an audio editing tool. Now, it costs you some money, but you can get a 30-day free trial. Hindenburg.com. Send your picks to feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com, and you can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. All right, Peter. Peter sent us a question, different Peter, about net neutrality. So let's listen in.
Hello, Tom Merritt and guest. My question for you is about net neutrality and T-Mobile and those music services that don't count against your cap. What would happen if they added a $5.95 a month option, and if you paid that, then music wouldn't go against your cap? Specifically music. Would that be different than the music providers paying T-Mobile to keep their stuff from affecting data caps?
Yes.
Hopefully that made sense.
It does. So what he's saying is, first of all, I think he's under a misimpression. The music companies are not paying T-Mobile USA to exempt their music services from the cap, because that would be a worse net neutrality violation in many people's opinion. T-Mobile's just doing it, but a lot of people still think that that violates net neutrality because it picks winners, right? It encourages you to use something. If you had to pay to have that exempted from your cap, I don't think it changes anything, because again, it's picking winners. It's having T-Mobile say like, well, okay, if you want to get exempted from your cap on these music services, you have to pay extra. It's not treating the bits neutrally in either case.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily have an issue with these services that, or when an ISP, say, zero rates a service like this. I mean, I was just, like I said, I was just on holidays, and one of the companies, that there were about 7 companies I could choose from. I think it's always helpful when you're looking at a market that has a lot of competition. But yes, one of the companies had free Facebook and Twitter, and I decided to go with them just because I knew I could then move a lot of my conversation to that, and I wouldn't have to worry about going over my small data that I had for the time that I was away. So I don't know. I feel that it comes back to that idea of I'd rather just pay for the bits that I need and then work out how I'm going to use those bits, and that's kind of what I do. I prepay for my mobile phone, and I top it up with as much data as I can, and then I use it. I use any service as it comes along.
And finally, Eric, a co-executive producer on the show, writes in and says, if Superfish has you worried about crapware, the Microsoft Store only sells PCs with the signature experience, which means no third-party, non-Microsoft software. It's a pure experience of Windows, and unlike other big box stores, there's not an extra fee to remove any bloatware. He says when catching good sales at the Microsoft Store, they are competitively priced on the same hardware. So, yeah, Microsoft's been doing the signature experience for a while, and I think this is certainly a time when they might want to take advantage of that experience to say, hey, you may or may not have a problem with what we make, but it's only going to be what we make on these machines. There's not going to be any pre-installed anything from anybody else.
Yeah, I've never used that. Have you used the Microsoft Experience thing? No.
I have not, because you have to buy it directly from the Microsoft Store, and the only time, the last time I bought a Windows machine, I bought a Surface RT, which you really didn't need the signature experience for. That's Surface RT. It's coming from Microsoft anyway. And the time before that, I bought a Doghouse system, and I wanted to buy it from them. I didn't want a machine. But if you're looking for just a Windows laptop, you should check it out. It's a good way to go.
And now there's been no better time to try Ubuntu or any other very simple installation of Linux if you've got an older machine kicking around as well.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Peter Wells. Appreciate taking the time to talk with us today. Fun and informative as always. You got to find him on Reckoner, folks. Reckoner.com.au is where he spends his technology news time. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Just follow me on Twitter as well. That's Peter Wells at Twitter. Hopefully, the political tweets will stop very, very soon. But yes, it's been an interesting couple of weeks in Australia. That's all I'll say.
For sure. Twitter.com/Peter Wells, PeterWells. Thank you, and thank you, patrons. we're making progress. We're going to continue to have Veronica Belmont and Scott Johnson on the show whenever we can, but we really like to rope them into doing it all the time, making them regulars. So we're trying to get to that goal of $16,000. We're at $14,458, making slow but sure progress towards it. So if you have been thinking, you know what, I really should back the show. All we ask is $1 a month. If every single person in the audience right now gave us $1 a month, we would be golden. We'd have more than we need. So go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support for more information about all the ways you can support the show. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can give us a call, 512-59-DAILY. Listen to the show live Monday through Friday at 4:30 Eastern Time at tunein.alphageekradio.com or visit our website, dailytechnewsshow.com, to get the shows on demand. We'll be back tomorrow with Patrick Beja, DTNS contributor and independent podcaster and Frenchman.
This podcast is part of the Frog Pants Studios Network. For more information about this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Twitter. Apparently I said Twitter. Somebody said.
Twitter.
You can find him on the Twitters. That was great. Thanks, Peter.
No worries, mate. That was great. That was good fun. And what's the difference from? So right now I am a Patreon, the minimum level. How do I become a co-executive producer?
That's the $10 a month. You got to be rolling in it.
All right. Well, I think I might do that. And stuff's going to change around here, mate.
You contribute by being on the show. You don't have to give me anything.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Honestly, this is the highlight of my daily commute. So.
Oh well, thanks, man. I'm glad to hear that. I am always heartened when like you or Patrick Beja will do this too, come on the show and then talk about a previous show they weren't on. It makes it clear that you're actually like listening and thinking about what we're talking about. It's awesome.
Absolute pleasure, seriously. But speaking of my morning commute, I should do that.
You should probably get to it.
Guys.
All right, cheers. Thanks again, Peter.
No worries. Bye.
Great show.
Yay. What do we got for titles, Jenny?
Titles.
And now it's time for title talk.
I love You've Sunk My USS Net Neutrality. It's not really on the topic, but it's so great.
It's too good. We might just have to do it. Is there anything else even close?
You know, Superfish 2, the spawning, like shooting Superfish in a barrel.
Very clever. Clever. Jamalto says it's just sim antics.
That's pretty good.
You guys are on fire for a Monday. This is great.
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like we could maybe save You've Sunk My USS Net Neutrality for...
Ooh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Although I didn't make the USS gaff.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make it on purpose on Friday.
It's probably the Jamalto one or Superfish in a Barrel. But I'm sure Superfish in a Barrel is going to be out there in the world, you know.
That Jamalto says it's just sim antics. It's not going to be done by anybody.
Yeah, I know. That's what I like. That's why I like it over the Fish in a Barrel.
You got me over a fish in a barrel on this one.
Yep. Oh, it's tough.
Here, fish.
When
Plenty of superfish in the
spawn,
sea. I get it. C++.
Lenovo fishing causes fail whales. Beemaster. The deep cuts are a little inappropriate, but I'm enjoying them.
Well, You've Sunk My USS Net Neutrality has 7 votes now to like Shooting Superfish in a Barrel, which has 5. And my favorite and yours, the Jamalto one, only has 3. So people are not, well, now it has 4. People are not flocking to it like you and I are. Oh, now it's rising because I mentioned it.
Yeah.
Or someone's botting. Which one do we just like the better? We can do whatever one we want.
You know, You've Sunk My USS Net Neutrality is pretty awesome.
All right. I'm on board. Get it? On board.
Ah.
You've sunk my USS net neutrality. Like they're ships. Or something. All right.
Or something. So what else? What else is going on? We talked about it all in the pre-show. Now I got nothing.
Yeah, but they didn't see that. The
Well,
people
that's
watching
true.
on demand.
But I should just learn to save my business as opposed to say it again. Because whenever you say it again, it feels false. It doesn't.
Yeah,
have
you say
the
it.
light.
You shorten it.
Yeah.
You feel like, oh, I've already bored people with this story, even though you haven't.
But really, I've only bored Tom.
Yeah, and I'm not. I wasn't. You know, I'm busy editing and stuff, so it doesn't matter if you
True.
bore me.
He's not even listening.
What?
No, I
What'd
need
you say?
I need to stop. I need to stop with the Oscars. I need to stop. They're over. Every year there's something. I'm moving on. Oh, Chris Pine cried, and I was pretty excited about that. Chris Pine openly cried at the Oscars, and that made me really happy.
I feel like he's a very serious man. Like I don't think he's because when he gets joked around with, sometimes he looks like, okay, guys. Like, it's not
Yeah.
that he lacks a sense of humor at all. He definitely has a sense of humor, but I feel like he just sort of like, you know, I'd rather not joke right now sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah,
don't
no,
know.
he knows. That guy knows who he is. I mean, I saw him. It's funny. I think, you know, Into the Woods is not the first time I've seen him sing. I saw him in the Lieutenant of Inishmore in downtown LA when they did that, and he
I don't
sang.
even know what that is.
Yeah, it's a Martin Dunna play, I think his
Okay.
name is. It's a series of trilogies about the Aran Islands, loosely. And Chris Pine was in it, and he was super dynamic. This was pretty early. And he just sang off the cuff that song, The Patriot Games, in one scene. I was like, damn, that guy's got a voice. And so I think he's strongly affected by musical theater stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Music. Just I don't even say musical theater because it was the Common and John Legend song "Glory" that made him cry. But that was that was my everything last night. It's Chris Pine and David Oyelowo. God damn it! I almost had it. I'm just as bad as every other person out there. Two of them crying. I was just like, this is great. So let's see what else.
Dark Redeemer says he's submitted that Sim Antics title for like the past 3 shows. I'd never noticed it until now. I'm sorry, Dark Redeemer. It's really good. Tensor Guy's like, it's a play about the Iron Islands?
Yeah, I know that would be super cool. The Aran
So how
Islands.
much, what was the iron price to get into that play?
It was a pretty steep iron price, I'll tell you.
No wonder I didn't see it. It was a bloodbath to get in.
Yeah, it was a bloodbath of a play. I'm gonna look it up so that I'm saying the correct information about it.
I'm sure you are. We're just
Lieutenant of
making
Innismore.
puns.
Martin McDonough. That's Martin McDonough. It's the first of, or it's like the second. But boy, was he good in that. That was like right after the first Star Trek reboot came out, and they were like, this Chris Pine kid seems pretty cool. And then
Boy,
we went
Captain Kirk can sing.
Yeah, and I was like, whoa, he can sing. When will he do a musical? And then he did Into the Woods, and
he did Into the Woods.
boom. Yeah.
And boom goes the dynamite.
Yeah, Chris Pine is, not to get off on a tangent of epic proportions, but Chris Pine is actually much more of a fascinating character actor than he is a lead. Every time he does a character role, he's like allowed to step out of the leading man box that is very profitable and everybody wants him to be in, and he's a wicked player of characters.
That
So
would seem to explain why he's so good at Kirk, who is a leading man but is a character.
Bam.
You know?
Exactly. It's why that role fits and why Jack Ryan didn't fit, aside from being like a terribly scripted movie, just terrible. It's why, what was the other one? He's just he's so much more interested, it seems, in the roles that are small and wackadoo. even you can see on Funny or Die when he does stuff on there. So there, now you all know that I know a lot about Chris Pine, like maybe more than I should.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the Funny or Die stuff because I don't want to. My earlier thing, I don't want to make it sound like I don't think he's funny. I think he's hilarious when he wants to be.
So he has a considered response.
But I think
what
it's
you're
like,
saying is, yeah.
I think it's like when I do a funny thing, I
Yeah.
will be funny.
Yeah.
But when I'm just being me, I don't necessarily want to be funny right now.
Yeah, and like I've seen him a lot on. I've watched a lot of Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto.
Wow.
I will include Zachary Quinto. Like, get him in the comfort zone, like a junket where it's like all awful and boring and whatever. And they're hilarious. Those guys are hilarious. Like they play off each other and they do a great job. And it's all great. But you're right. I think what you're trying to say is it's a considered response. He's not the guy who's just gonna laugh because some presenter was like, or some person interviewing him was like, play this game with me, you know?
Yeah.
It's like he'll really think.
Yeah, it's something like that.
I like to think it's because he's a third generation Hollywood kid, and I think he was well trained. So yeah, there you go. Now y'all know.
Life's not a joke.
Now y'all know.
That life's not a joke.
Pining away.
And Chris
Thank you.
is the meaning of life.
No. I think Bill Simmons was maybe the
Bye,
only
Zoe.
celebrity sighting. Bye, Zoe! That I was super excited about having seen, and then I was super jealous that my husband saw Chris Pine ordering a sandwich once and I wasn't there. So those. We saw Simmons, and we were just like, we're not going to be jerks. We're not going to interrupt dinner. But it was real close.
I got really excited when I was at Comdex and I saw Bill Gates dancing once.
Oh, that is classic. That's a classic.
Yeah. It was the PC Mag party.
Wow, that whole sentence is just like so early.
I know.
I was at Comdex and I saw Bill Gates and it was at the PC World
Mag.
party.
PC
Boom.
Mag, yeah.
PC Mag, boom.
I try to think. It's not that I don't get excited seeing famous people. I find it interesting, but I don't get a visceral excitement because I don't know them. And I think I've tried very hard to be like, look, they're just people. So it has to be somebody that I'm like, I really would like to get to know in real life, I think.
I have one basic exception, which is the West Wing's cast. I will just unabashedly walk up to one of them and be like, I think you're great. But if you allow yourself like one exception, then you don't ever have to do it for everybody.
Yeah, I get really excited about meeting people whose work I admired, right? Like the first time I met Kim Evey, who was the producer on The Guild. She's Greg Benson's wife, but she had hosted, I think Greg produced it, gorgeous Tiny Chicken Machine Show, which I found hilarious. And so the first time I met her, I was excited because I'm like, I loved that show. It got me through so many like boring times just sitting waiting for a set to get made up, and I would just be on my laptop. So stuff like that. Like I have to have really been into the thing. Versus like first time I ever, not the first time, like one of the early times I came to LA, I was driving around with a friend of mine and we saw David Duchovny in a truck. That was entertaining. I was like, oh, look, that's hilarious. There's David Duchovny driving a truck, like a pickup truck. There's like there's a difference in there.
We've seen a bunch of times. But
everywhere.
The West Wing, he's everywhere. But the West Wing staff, but the cast is just like I went up to Richard Schiff at the Burbank airport once and was like, I'm super sorry to talk to you with the baggage claim. He was with his kids. I was like, but you're just a fantastic actor and you do that. And like if you're just stuck there at baggage claim waiting for your bags and your kids are with you, like it's not the worst thing in the world for some random person to politely come up and say that you're a tremendous actor. Like there are worse things.
The only thing I would worry about in that situation if I were you is like, am I going to set off a chain reaction and then he's going to get mobbed?
It was Burbank. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
They're all disinterested, you know.
Yeah.
And it's Richard Schiff. It's not like
It's
not like it's Taylor Swift. But like I did not go up to Janelle Maloney at 7 a.m. at a Target when she was shopping for diapers because she does not want to talk to me then. So that's just one of those things.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of the post.